Hey folks, Zuski Films here. Today I'm doing a quick video on how to bleed your integrated brakes on a Honda Forza. So let's get started now. Let's get started. Alright, so today we're going to be following the Honda Forza service manual, which shows us that there are 3 different bleeder valves that we're going to need to work with. And the first thing we should do is make sure we have some brake fluid on hand, an 8mm wrench, a Phillips screwdriver, some brake cleaner in case we get a spill, and of course some paper towels to clean up that spill. I also have this brake bleed bag that makes it convenient to dispose of the brake fluid. So looking at the front caliper, you're looking at the first bleeder screw, which is tied into the right lever brake, or you can call it the main front brake. The bleeder screw just to the left of the first one is part of the integrated brake, or the left-hand brake lever. So when you press that, it actually pushes fluid to both the front and the rear brake. The third and final bleed screw is on the rear caliper, and that's connected to the left-hand brake lever. So we're going to start by bleeding the front caliper first. So we're going to remove the lid on the brake reservoir on the right-hand side near the main front brake. And so when we remove this lid, we're going to have access to the fluid. Some people remove the old brake fluid from the reservoir with a syringe, but in my case, I flushed it through the brake line. Okay, now we're back to the bleeder screw, and we need to pop off that rubber cap. And I'm going to connect a rubber hose to the bleeder screw that's connected to the bleeder bag. For the bleed and flush process, I'm going to start by applying some pressure to the brake lever. Then I'm going to slowly open up the bleeder screw and continue to apply pressure to the brake lever. And be careful not to release the brake lever until I close the bleeder valve. In some cases, it might be good to have a helper that's either opening up the bleeder screw or applying pressure to the brake lever, but in my case, I had to operate both myself. So you continue the bleeding process until the reservoir is almost empty, but definitely don't let the reservoir run dry, otherwise that could put air back into the line. So once you fill up with fresh brake fluid, then I usually repeat this process 2 to 3 times before topping off and closing the lid. It's usually at this point when you're closing the lid that some brake fluid will start seeping out, so be sure to clean that up right away. Alright, and then we're going to end by putting the rubber cover back on the bleeder screw. Now we're going to bleed the second bleeder screw on the front caliper. First we pop off the rubber cap, and then connect the rubber hose to the bleeder screw. Alright, so this bleeder screw is connected to the rear integrated brakes, and so now we're going to have to remove the lid off of the rear brake reservoir, which is located on the left-hand side. When working with the brake reservoirs, it's good to move the handlebars so you get the brake reservoir as level as possible. So the process is the same as before. Apply some pressure to the brake lever, slowly open up the bleeder screw, continue adding pressure to the brake lever to push the fluid out. Be sure not to release the brake lever until the brake bleeder screw is closed. Repeat this until the brake reservoir is almost empty. Fill the reservoir with fresh brake fluid and then repeat the entire process 2 to 3 times. And once finished, don't forget to put the rubber cap back on. And now on to the final bleeder screw on the rear caliper. Remove the rubber cap and then connect the rubber hose to the bleeder screw. Okay, you know the drill. Apply pressure to the brake lever, slowly open up the brake bleeder screw, continue pressing the brake lever to push out the old fluid. Remember not to release the brake lever until the bleeder screw is closed. Flushing out the rear brake is a little bit tricky for one person, but it can certainly be done. Fill with fresh brake fluid. Remember not to let the brake reservoir run dry. Repeat the entire process 2 to 3 times before topping off and closing the lid. Also be sure not to overfill the brake reservoir. You should be able to see the upper level through the sight glass. Place the rubber cover back on and you're all done. And one last tip, pull the brake levers in, use some wire ties to hold it in that position for at least 12 to 24 hours. That'll bleed off any small amounts of air in the brake line and give you a nice firm brake feel. If the brakes feel soft after that, you probably need to bleed them again. Alright folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button and share with all of your Forza friends. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I promise you, you will not regret it. Alright, ride safe and peace out.